Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Ansar Gilani, English commentator at the entire sports, instructor at Intercultural Studies, Social Sciences, English Literature and International Relations. Uh, Nowadays, I am working on the intellect of Quran. What is the message of Quran and how centrally it approaches and access to the every human being, every men and women's circuit, and it tries to guide because there is a natural inclination present in every human being present on planet Earth, and this is the question of the existence and the survival, and the existence by means of rightfully making the livelihood, the ways of earning, how to be made purified one, justified one, and how to make the means of earning justified one based on moral standards, as well as how to make the ways of the world livable for every being so that it could live in a peaceful environment, and living in a peaceful environment that could create such a positive enforcement of its character and such a atmosphere that everyone love to live in and join in and try to promote the social values, and that should be based on somewhat moral standards, because there is no one in the present world right from the beginning of the universe, and particularly when onward the start of human being came as the first man on the planet Earth, and a first couple on the planet Earth, like Adam and Eve, then Hazrat Noah alayhi salam, and then onward till the last prophet who sealed the department of the prophethood. And there is no more room or no more, you can say, space for another prophet to come into the universe and the world and try to guide the people in a new way. Rather, whatever you can say in the present age, that is called the most modern and ultra modern, and the post-modern period is going on, where plenty of deformities in the world of morality and ethics and religion and cultures and in the traditions and in the tribal approaches have stepped in. The being is deprived of moral standards. They are running after just how to stay in life and how to survive in the life, and largely they are neglecting the moral fabric and moral standards. Uh, those were firstly based on the religious teachings, the teachings of the prophets, who are the vicegerents and the true representatives of the Almighty Allah, who is the creator and the sustainer of the universe since the first day, then up till the last day. He has been all the time the right guider and the right, you can say, the improver of the moral standards and the moral fabric. And he has been sending the prophets in all of the human histories and specific times to the specified ones, communities where the people have been getting birth and have been getting, you can say, increasing of their strength, and they have been leading their life on their individuals cults and individual set standards of social grounds, where you can say the people of authoritarian kinds have been you can say, bulldozing the basic rights, even the rights of the life and the rights of the livelihoods and the life of shelter and eating and lodging and clothing and like that. So wherever there were somewhat, you can say, somewhat supremacy of those who came to seniority and leadership as the tribe level, they had somewhat quality, you can say, minded. They have somewhat claims of that they have some potential uh, that 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 could make them how to guide the people and how to drive the people and how to take care of the other peoples. But there have been somewhat inefficiency and inability, or they were not capable to justify the ways of the world for every being of living around there, or living in their domains, or living as subjects to their lordship or kingship or chiefship at the tribe. And whatever they were, they claimed that we were and we are the chiefs of the largest sections of the society, and we can keep the equilibrium in the human society by justifying the ways of politics and ways of justice and ways of giving of the education formally, which has been just moralizing and reforming and preaching life as to how they are to be a better citizen, and to better citizen mean how to be a better subject to the king and how to be submissive and how to be subordinate to the kings and the drivers of the state and whatever the domain they were constituting at their periods. There have been two kinds of, you can say, clashing of the governing bodies. One has been the department of the prophets that was present from the day first when Adam and Eve came on the planet Earth and started living with the moral guidance, with the revelations that were coming from Almighty Allah. Then they went on leading their life, and when the time, you can say, keep going and the history keep going, moving, and human being and human race keep on moving, the people came out of the stone age and the jungle age and the cave age, and after leaving the hunting of the animals, they stepped into the agricultural age, where from our own world the first organized kind of living of the human beings took start, and then they reached at the industrial age, then to the present science and technology and information technology. But wherever, you can say, they were at the earlier stage, at the thinking level and patterning of the behaviors and how to live in the world, this has been existential question all the time, wherever the journey of the human race was there, because the question of the death and the question of the survival, first to what to earn and how to earn, and what to learn and how to live in the, you can say, world just for sake of earning and just for sake of learning how to be subject and submissive to the dictates of the rulers. Uh, Firstly, you can say that department of the prophets have always been present in the human race until the intellectual development does not step into the world of human being. You could say the first intellectual development took start, you can say, just 1 or 2 or 3 centuries ago, before the Christ steps in. And then when the Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the lost, you can say, the prophet, afterwards there would be no prophet. All ones would be of the high caliber, at the disciple level, at the follower level, at the spiritual guider level, but they would never ever be at the stature and the standard of the prophets, the way the lost prophet led the life, by words and by practice, and left no room that would intrude and step into the uh, faultless life of Holy Prophet, the way he led life and the way he guided, the way he left the impressions upon the companion, and then onward it left very deep-seated impression. And the more the human race will, you can say, increase their intellectual level, the more they will try to understand and study the teachings of the prophets. They would having no faults and no flaws, and no, you can say, moral fall uh, in the every nook and corner of the teachings. And they would have no, you can say, room that would ask them that there is need of any other moralizer or the preacher that would be at the stature of the lost prophet, the most prismatic personality ever the universe would have given to us. So he was at the highest standard of moral, you can say, standards to give in theory and practice both. That's left no room and no space for uh, the upcoming generations that could produce and create such a character that would have the theory and practice at the such level that could excel the existing teachings of the prophets. So the department of the prophethood and the department of the kingship have always been at the clashing and conflicting wherever the existing question, the question of the existence, the question of existentialism, and the question of the survival, at the moral fabrication and moral guidelines, as well as the kings and their department of how to give good governance and how to govern the world and their subjects and their, you can say, the followers. There have been somewhat slavery kind of approaches to be built in and to be translated and transformed to the next generations, because the king's objective were to be making the such a organizations, sub classes and subgroups, and the human society and the human race were to be strategized, and the classifications were made on such grounds that people were divided into classes, and wherever the classes were there, there have been unending clash among the human race, either at the moral preaching or the question of existence and the question of the livelihood and the learning the ways of the earning, and how, as we watch in the present, the post-modern age, where the delinquencies and the moral, you can say, deformities are stepping into the world, and scientific and technological driven kind of temper is being promoted and preached at the scientific level, and at the modernist, those who are of the claim that they are the champions of the democracy and they could be the better viceroys and the better representative to the public, but they don't know how to control the public in a rightful manner, the way they are to be themselves. The same reflections would lost and transfer into the public. the main deformity and the incapacity that we have in the present rulers, that they have no character, they have no strength of the mental, you can say, pursuits and mental pursuings, that they could transfer something that is positive for all. That's why whenever we study the case of human race traveling from day first to the present and then onward to the last day, we have no leakages, or we have no fault, that the Prophets department has always been the matchless, because there was a continuity and continuation of the Prophet series, and they were going to perfect the imperfections that were present in the lost community. There have been no imperfections in the teaching and directions of the Prophets, though there have been coming some delinquencies and deformities and faults and moral, you can say, standards were under challenge. That's why the continuation of the Prophets have always been there. But since when the last Prophet came, he set the standard of such an intellectual strength that there is no more need of any prophet. Now we will study the department of prophethood and the kingship, and that is now turning into the modern age, the presidential system and the parliamentarian system, or the mullaism, or somewhat tribal instinct that is all time coming into being, coming into existence. That is to be estimated, and that is to be evaluated, and that is to be marked out, underlined, where the directions of the prophets are rightfully being followed, what kind of, you can say, the amendment has been made there, how the people of the, you can say, faulty characters put something into the teachings and the preachings and the set standards of the prophets, and make and create some weaknesses, and then they kept on transforming and transferring into the next generation. So the next generation is all time having somewhat, depending on what the senior generation would have transferred to them. They are on to the depending sources, and whatever the previous generation would have transferred to them, they would surely, depending on the standard, either it is a high standard or the middle order kind of approach, or it is substandard, even it is so faulty that have no foot, that have no legs, that have no, you can say, strength to keep going. Then we are to once again revisit the true teachings, fundamental teachings of any religion, that what is the religion and what is its present position in the present scenario, where science and technology has reached into such excellence that is going to give a counter narrative and a counter productions in such a scientific and in a productive and in a you can say so strengthful, that it is going to challenge the department of the prophethood and the religion. Why there was no loophole present when the teachings of the prophets were coming down to the group of those people that have been so close and near to the prophets, and they have been learning the ways of the practice and the ways of the prophet when he was present among them. But when he left the planet Earth and got the way back to where from the prophet's department was taken start, then the characters started falling, because there were no true spiritual guider among them that would have stood them accountable and would have watched them wherever the deficiencies were coming to them, and whatever it was, weaknesses would have been addressed and spotted on the right point, and would have pinpointed and would have guided them that where the deficient mark is coming and wherever the weaknesses is going on must be rightfully guided. But when the prophets are close with their department of teachings and the preaching, and when their periods comes to an end, when all teachings are transferred to the uh, group of persons or the class of a person that is rightfully made as a standard living at the moral level. So when we say that there have been two departments from the first day to the present and then onward, that one was the department of the kings, those who have been the challenger to the department of the prophets, and the prophets have always been those one who has been representing Almighty Allah, that we are the God's vicegerent and God's you can say representative. We are nothing but whatever it is revealed to us by Almighty Allah. We are to uh, uh, get it cleared and you can say transferred into their very near and dear ones that are called Jamaat or group of or the congregation of the Prophet that is present in them. The Prophet is never ever the philosopher and never ever the speculators, never ever you can say any you can say such scholar that would have received some education from some social teacher or social guider or social reformer or social preacher. They are rightfully directed by the Almighty Allah, and they are revealed whatever they are to you can say share to their concerned class or concerned the congregation to whom they are going to address and to whom they are assigned to preach them. Uh, they are they are all time giving clarity about themselves that we are nothing, we are simple people, straightforward and transparent and clear sighted, clear minded, clear hearted, and we are by all clear. We have no mixing of our creative you can say kinds of thinking and mixing with the something others, and then we present to the people who are in our class or in our group. Rather, we are totally simple minded, clean minded, and we have no you can say internal thinking or some thoughts to make up and present to the people. Rather, whatever we preach and practice, that is all revealed to us through the source of angel, and the angels are the mediating agency that is somewhat transferring in a matter of scripture, in a matter of dictation coming from Almighty Allah, that are the holy sermons, that are the verses, that are the teachings of the Almighty Allah, because He is the creator, and the creator and the inventor always knows what the missionary needs and what the you can say the thing crafted and created needs to be overhauled, and what its are you can say formations and deformations, and how they are constituted and how they needs to be guided with the passage of time. That's why Prophet's claim is all time that we are not philosopher, we are not the creative even thinker. Rather, we are simply clean-minded, clear and washed itself, and that's why whatever it is revealed to us, that is all coming from Almighty Allah. That's why we claim that whatever it is being revealed to us, that is coming from the supernatural agency, that is the head is Almighty Allah, the source are the angels. Though God when before you can say the prophet is appointed as you can say the duty of the prophethood is to be fulfilled and to be pay out, they are on such guardianship, they are in such a circle, they are living in such a environment, in such a atmosphere, in such a good pious people, that they are not injected by some you can say impure thoughts or impurity, they are all time guarded, and they are all time given such positive and productive environment and circumstances. Onwards they are made clear sensed and clear minded, and when they reach to the age of 40, that is the age of purity, and when their emotional largely their emotional imbalance and in equilibrium is transferred into a stability and into a strength and you can say strongness, that they are emotionally strong, and they have somewhat control on their neurons and their mind and their body. They are not under any flux, or they are not just at the mercy of the impulse, that what the impulse comes and dictates, and they by way one way or the other way they do this and that. No, when they reach at the age of 40, they are traveled through such trials and tribulations and tests and trials, and sometimes they are put under heaviest burdens of the emotional, and some losses, and some you can say some such you can say shocks that makes them strengthful at the character, and later on they could understand well the intricacies and subtleties of the human life, and the complications, and the whatever the deformities are present. They are made intellectually and visually, and you can say spiritually such strengthened one, that they could read out the things. They, whatever it comes as an idea and a thought into their heart, that is also a testimony to the teachings, and they could guide well. But despite it all, they are pure and they have good thoughts. Their all thoughts are sealed by and fixed by and audited by the Almighty Allah, by revealing to them that at the right this situation, what kind of situation is rising and what you are to do it, that is guided. Many times, as the last prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam put into such a complex situation and put into such a complex questions of existence and the many of the situations and the matters of the life, but he didn't try to reply in on the just philosophical disposition. Rather, he waited a while, as he is waiting for the revelation, as he is waiting for a holy order, what holy order is to come from Almighty Allah. Then he is to respond to the questionnaire, or who are asking some fundamental questions to the Prophet, either to play trick on the Holy Prophet, either to check his intellectual strength or his philosophical disposition, or he is somewhat a super being above the human level. He is, after all the time at the cross questions and facing the cross situations, and facing into a stressful and putting into a stressful situations. But the Holy Prophet is, you can say, traveled through such a pressure-driven kind of situation that he become the person of such character that could rightfully respond to the people, but not merely on philosophical disposition, because the question could be arisen in the coming generation, in the coming centuries, after 400, 500, 600, 700, even 2000 and 3000 centuries after. The questions could be put on that he was a creator, and he was a you can say philosopher, and he was a good thinker, he was a great thinker, that he could think well and could respond and reply in a supersonic way. But the fundamental reply to this all question is that the prophets are clean-minded. They are not like the philosophers of the world, they are more than the philosophers at the thinking and going to the deeper areas of heart and mind, and to pick out the purest idea, and to reply to the sitting people around, or the people of who are all time have been checking the department of and the capacity mark of the Holy Prophet. But the Holy Prophets have always been under the dictates and the commands of Almighty Allah, and He is the only, you can say, person on planet Earth that is among the human being, but He is above the human being at the level of character, and at the preacher and the leader, and to the, you can say, that could lift the human being from the plights of moral depravities and deformities and the faults that are present in them. So the department of kings have always been, you can say, going at the journey of the human race. That's created plenty of, you can say, theories like Karl Marx, and like, you can say, the question of socialism, Marxism, capitalism, and fascism, and many of the dogmas, many of the philosophies, economic philosophies, world philosophies, philosophies of politics, philosophies of moral fabric standards, and the philosophies of how to rule the world, how to drive the world, and how to give good governance, and this and that. But wherever there would have been no balance at the teachings and practices at the living of the life, there have been somewhat, you can say, unrestness, and there have been somewhat, you can say, there has been somewhat, you can say, missing, that keeps the people mind and heart in state of turbulence and disturbance, because the department of the prophets, there is a super being, Almighty Allah, behind all the teachings. Prophets are nothing but the dictates of Almighty Allah, and prophets are nothing but they are the right followers, and you can say, the vicegerent and right representative. In appearance, they are the godly figures, and in you can say, in existence, they are a true example on planet Earth, that they are like human being, as they are the composition of blood and flesh, but their intellect and their